So it's a great pleasure to invite Tal Shmueli from Jolt, who's going to talk about employee engagement and the future of professional learning. Thank you.
Hi guys, good afternoon. My name is Tal. I'm the Regional Director for Jolt here in the UK. I'm here to talk to you about employee engagement and the future of the workforce. Before I do that, I have to say it's quite an inspiring room to be in. I'm feeling very assured and optimistic about where this whole humanity thing is going, seeing some of the challenges people in the room have chose to tackle. I hope to be able to contribute through what Jolt is doing to the general well-being of the world. Please, let's start with kind of like a sense check of the room. Raise your hands if you possess a higher degree, if you've completed a degree after your high school education. Thank you. Please also raise your hands if you attribute some of your success to the education you've acquired. Okay. And if you believe that education, continuous education, the need to constantly learn new skills is what makes you or will make you successful going forward. Okay, so we're all on the same page here. And another person who's raising his hand when we're talking about these things is Klaus Schwab. He is the chairman of the World Economic Forum. He wrote the book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. And he also took part in publishing a report in September of 2018 called The Future of Jobs. The Future of Jobs was a survey that looked deeply into what's going to happen in the near future for, well, the future of jobs. And it came with some underwhelming and overwhelming bottom lines. Some of the quotes were such as this one: by 2022, no less than 54% of all employees will require significant reskilling and upskilling. Fair enough, we all know that's coming. Another one: many employers' retraining and upskilling efforts remain focused on a narrow set of currently high-skilled and highly valued employees. This means that a whole bunch of us will be left underqualified and potentially out of a job in the very, very near future. Now, I'm not here to tell you, guys, the robots are coming, da-da-da-da-da. I think I think Ed will probably be powering the robot evolution from Spark Beyond. And with Ori's help, these guys, we can't even plug the robots out of the socket anymore. So the robots are coming, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about what it means for businesses and individuals. So the bottom line of the report, it was underwhelming in the sense that everyone knew it was coming, but overwhelming in the sense that no one imagined that by 2022, such a large percentage of the workforce will become outdated. So what does the World Economic Forum have to say about this? It is critical that businesses take an active role in reskilling and upskilling, and that individuals take a proactive approach to their own lifelong learning. Now, there's a cringe emoji here, and the reason I have a cringe emoji is because we had our tagline for Jolt was lifelong learning. We believed in this principle so much. People should constantly get new skills, constantly get exposed to new ideas. And we've started building a business on it. But the fact is, it isn't very easy to do. I want to share with you a personal story. On the screen here is my dad, which I love very much with all of my heart. What he's done for my family and my siblings is unparalleled. Grew up in very tough circumstances and managed to raise all of us. Some of us came out better than others. But in a sense, now, he said, listen, do what I did. And that's acquire a degree, acquire another one, put in the time, work hard, success will follow, unbeatable, bulletproof. Just do it, this is the way to go. And what worked for him 30, 40 years ago isn't really working for myself and my generation anymore. 80-hour work weeks, a degree after a degree, it's very, very hard and not necessarily rewarding in the same sense it used to be. Why? Because there is a clash in our narrative. So this is a rough diagram of what a young person's life might or may not look like. So you finish college or university or around 22, 25, depending on the country you grow up in, and you're thinking that you can harness that big logo you've just earned, that momentum into a stellar career. But the fact is that your education is just a buy-in to the very, very beginning of a very long and uncertain process. Every minute you spend in some sort of an education incubator is time you're not focused on building and doing things in the real world. And that creates a serious crisis. People finish school feeling that they're ready to go, they can take on the world, only to realize that the world doesn't reward them for the logo on their CV, at least not initially. They have to actually go in and do the work. How many of you use the knowledge that you've acquired in your schools on a day-to-day basis? Very few of us use it. If you're doctors, you're physicians, this is it. But everyone who studied something a little less technical, I don't know about that. And this clash in the narrative is what drives a lot of people into that industry. So it was a big facepalm moment for a lot of my generation. A degree after a degree, 25, you're entering the workforce and your value to the workforce is very low. Businesses know that as well. So it's not just an individual problem, it's a business problem. If by 2022, so many of the workforce will be outdated, what do? Think of yourselves and your day-to-days, how hard it is to claw a day for training. How hard it is to find the time to actually train the employees you already have on doing the job that they were hired to do. This is unbelievably hard, and we can't do it alone, not as organizations, not as governments, and not as individuals. This bubble created the L&D departments within organizations who's in charge in training the employees. Roughly 3% of payroll in some instances is paid on L&D. So the need is there, the money is there, but unfortunately, no one is using the products. Why? Where did the famous millennial motivation go? One of the top problems for L&D teams around the world is lack of learner engagement and motivation. And why is that? Well, we're thinking that it's kind of like eating broccoli. Everyone knows that they should be eating more broccoli. Everyone knows that they should be learning. But when it comes down to it and you're faced with a beautiful cookie dough, Ben & Jerry's, and the broccoli, the cookie dough wins more times than it loses. And that's the same with learning. Why spend another couple of hours outside of my comfort zone when I could be replying to emails, spending time with my partner, or doing something that's actually not as difficult as learning something new? So where did the famous millennial motivation go? Like a lot of things, life happened to it and it dies. Dramatic, but that's just how it is. There's so many things competing over our time and attention that maintaining a habit of lifelong learning is just, in many cases, unsustainable. I want to give you the antidote to the broccoli challenge. So a good learning experience is mainly and firstly content. What am I teaching? What am I learning? Content needs to be ahead of the curve, highly relevant, hyper-focused. And another thing is community. So many people are paying so much money for MBA programs, not because of the logo or the content, just because of the network. Network is a detour, is a shortcut to success. It opens you up to opportunities, and it also makes learning so much better. The last part is the experience. If you're looking at today's classroom experience, it looks more or less like this. One person holding all the knowledge, communicating it, broadcasting it to others who are passively listening. Sometimes you'll have a debate, sometimes you'll have a conversation. But the learning experience hasn't changed since ancient Greek. Jolt puts itself right in the heart of it and disrupts each one of these elements. We teach something different entirely. We teach in a way that's entirely different than how people learn today, and we also do it in a highly experiential way. So we're here to give our students a competitive advantage in business. And how do we do that? Well, if you look at the 6 biggest companies out of the 10 biggest companies in today's, they started as startups. These are companies that came absolutely out of nowhere and just occupied a huge industry, what seems to be overnight. How did they do it with not necessarily a lot of money or a lot of legacy? They used the startup mindset. A startup mindset, like so many people in the room know, it's not a genetic jackpot that some people have and some people not. It is completely teachable. A startup mindset is a set of behaviors, of tools, of methodologies that we believe we can teach. So let's play a game. If you take a real estate company and a startup mindset, what do you get? What company do you get if you take real estate and startup mindset? You get WeWork. If you do the same for hospitality and a startup mindset, what do you get? If you take, for example, taxi and a startup mindset, what do you get? You get Uber. Guys, this is not rocket science, unless it is rocket science and there are startups doing that as well. But we took that and we tried to figure out what will the startup version of business education look like. The fact is we had no idea, so we went to the people who were supposed to know that. We chose 12 of the graduates from the world's top business schools. These are the Whartons, Kellogg's, MBS, HBS, LBS, INSEAD of the world. These are all folks who are holding senior positions in their respective industries. And we told them, guys, build an MBA program from scratch. We met them a few months later, and they showed us what they've built, and we looked at it and we said, this is definitely not an MBA. So we took that and we decided to go ahead with it. We added some of our own little magic, and we've launched a program last week that is actually called Not an MBA. The idea is to give practical, ahead-of-the-curve knowledge and deliver it in a way that's unprecedented. How do we do it? Jolt has campuses in Israel and in London. There's about 4 in Israel, Jerusalem, Haifa, a few in Tel Aviv. We have a campus in Liverpool Street Station, 5 minutes this way, and another one in Soho that we launched last month. We also help companies bring Jolt into their businesses by putting Jolt consoles on site. So make sure that learning can be facilitated wherever they are without having to go further to acquire it. Our business model is a membership. Our students pay a certain fee, roughly $100, give or take. Every month they can opt in and out. Every session that they get gives them points towards acquiring the diploma. They can choose their sessions on an app. They can choose who they sit next to. They can send encouragement to the people whose contributions were meaningful. They can see who the speakers are, what the session is going to do. And we are extremely critical of ourselves. Each session is being feedbacked by all the participants of that session, and that feedback is being fed to the team and to the Jolter, the speaker itself. So it's a continuous learning even inside the company. We were received really warmly, and I'm just about to finish, we were received really warmly by the UK in general. So Evening Standard says, Jolt is the London's new co-learning space, promised to future-proof your career. Financial Times said, executive education that fits around your lifestyle. But truth be told, Jolt isn't for anyone. These are just a couple of snippets from the last couple of days. We're in a country where higher education is traditionally ingrained into society, and you can read it for yourself. The UK thus is about to install its 11th Oxonian prime minister since the war. The Guardian, this is a report that came out last week. Roughly 40% of people in senior jobs have come from elitist or private education compared to 7% of the general public. So there is a good point about going to elite and private schools. If you can afford going to Oxford, do that. I mean, why not pause your career and pay $87,000 for an NHS school to teach you about the future? There's a clear upside for that. So Jolt is 100% not for everybody. By the way, this is real, happened last week. We went to Oxford to see what people think about their ultra-expensive degrees and kind of get their ideas and see if they think there's more to be done there. So what can I tell you, guys? Jolt isn't for everybody. But if you believe that education should propel and accelerate your career instead of hold you back, we're here with the Business School for the Self-Made. We're in the business of giving our students a competitive advantage in business, and we'd be loving to see you in our campuses. Thank you very much.